Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of the day it is for you. Hope you are doing great wherever you are. I'm just checking on a few things here, making sure that everything is working before starting with today's live drawing session. Super excited about this one. Let me make sure everything is working. Microphone seems to be working okay. If you're making it into the room, could you pretty please let me know if you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay? I would be so grateful. Let's see. Let me send out the message to my Patreon members to make sure that they know that the class is about to start. Let's see. Publish. Okay. Alrighty. Um, welcome everyone. If you're making it into the room, let me know who you are, if you're a Patreon member or where you're joining from. I'm always so excited to know and connect with people from all over the world. So let me know where you're joining from. Feel free to use the chat, this beautiful chat area where we can all. Thank you so much, Photo Laz. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. Okay, I need to make sure. Okay, message just went out. And let me just check to see that the link is working okay. We'll be starting with our drawing session in just around, well, I do have some usual, what's the word, housekeeping items to share with you just to make sure that we're all on the same page and some little, not troubleshooting, I don't know, like I need to make sure that I explain some things before jumping into the class just to make sure that, because this is completely live. So if anything happens, I okay, link is working. Sorry about that. So this is live. I need to make sure to share a few important little notes before starting, especially with live classes. Just in case my chicken starts going crazy and making noise, or my cats, or, construction noises, or whatever the case may be, it's a live thing, so anything can happen. Yeah. Okay. So link seems to be working. I'm going to go ahead and close all of these unnecessary tabs so that I can fully focus on the lesson and you guys. And I would recommend doing the same. If you have anything open in terms of technology, tabs, whatnot that can possibly distract you, I would recommend closing them, especially in the beginning of the lesson. Once you kind of have grasped all of these important ideas and how we're doing things, you can totally feel free to work with those ideas in your own way or take them to your own practice in whatever makes sense for you, whatever way makes sense for you. Sorry. you know. Okay, cool. Hi, Ranja Nasin. Ranja Nasin. Sorry for saying your name wrong if I am not pronouncing it properly. Thanks so much, Photolaz. I appreciate it. And New Jersey is in the house. Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me know. And Michelle, welcome, Michelle. Nebraska, amazing. Shout out to Nebraska. And all right, so I'm gonna give people a chance to join in, especially Patreon members, because I just sent out the final reminder post just like a few minutes ago. So I'm just gonna hang out for 2-3 more minutes, and then we'll get into the housekeeping stuff, and then we'll jump into today's quick sketching workshop. Super excited about this one. I love drawing and sketching, you guys. If you have been following me on YouTube or if you have been checking out my content that I have been sharing online, resources that I have been creating for the online space for how long has it been? Since 2017, 2018 is when I started my website, my blog, my YouTube channel. Since the beginning, I made sure to start sharing or to continue sharing sketching and drawing guidance alongside the watercoloring and the mixed media stuff that I do. Why? Because for me, drawing is the basis for all kinds of art. And I have an entire video on my YouTube channel where I explain why I think this is. The artists that I admire It's something that I took from them and I learned from them, is that drawing and painting are like two sides of the same coin. If you learn how to draw, it will enhance your painting. It'll make it more original. You won't have to depend on tracing using grids and all this stuff. You'll be able to start up artwork from scratch wherever you are. And the way that I explain or teach drawing is in a way that will help you do that, in a way that you will be able to draw. Like, that is the way that I have practiced. Is I had the goal from the beginning to be able to draw or sketch, which, what, by the way, drawing and sketching for me are essentially the same thing. It's just that with sketch, I mean more of an unfinished, kind of rough, quicker drawing. And a drawing kind of encapsulates, is this umbrella term, right? Lots of different types of artwork fits within the drawing theme. um, a super polished, super hyper realistic drawing would be a drawing as well. It's not really what I do. I enjoy sketching more. A looser, sketchier, rougher feel is what I usually like, because I think it's more kind of energetic, and it's more, there's nothing wrong with hyper realistic drawing. If that's what you like, that's super cool, and I respect it. I admire it because there's a lot of skill that goes into it. But I really like when I see the artist's hand and energy in a drawing or a painting as well. So sometimes when it comes to my paintings, I don't smooth out my brushstrokes. I like leaving the brushstroke there so that you can see the energy that went into that, the tools that I chose. You can see it in the brushstroke, all that. So that's what I like. So sketching is what I hope that makes sense. Drawing is just like an umbrella term, and sketching is something that I see within drawing. It's a rougher, quicker thing, which is going to be more like what we're practicing today with quick sketch. But yeah, I would recommend checking out that video where I explain why drawing is so important, why learning to draw is so key for artists looking for deeper progress. Unless you are completely into abstract art, and with that I mean 100% abstract, where you're just using the elements of art in their simplest form, like color, shape, line, texture. You're not trying to draw or paint anything representational or figurative where you can tell what it is. It's a vase of flowers, it's a lion, sorry, there's a plane going by or something. You know what I mean? It's a landscape. Unless you are completely abstract into the abstract art, and even in those cases, having line control and being able to create expressive lines and marks is important. But unless you're completely into the 100% abstract art style, you can greatly benefit from learning to draw, in whatever degree of realism that is for you and your style. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Welcome. It's pretty warm in here, so sorry about my shiny face. Louisiana, awesome. Hi, Maria. Nice to see you here. Morotantic, England, amazing. Leeds. And who else is here? Catherine, awesome to see you. Shout out. All the way from Australia, amazing. Carol, hi, Carol. Nice to see you here. The UK is in the house. Awesome. All right, everyone. So it is officially 5 minutes past. Sorry, I'm going to block my shiny face. Probably going to do this a lot today. It's pretty warm here. All right. Welcome, everyone. So welcome to our live session for April 2026. I hope you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world, and I'm super excited about this one. Today, we're working on quick sketch exercises, and I will be explaining what quick sketch is and also why it is so important, what makes it different from other types of drawing practices in just a bit. But first, I have to just quickly go over the usual housekeeping items because this is completely live. So if anything happens, any noises, if all of a sudden, this hasn't happened in a while, but if all of a sudden the internet goes bye-bye and, anything can happen. But if that does happen, please rest assured that as soon as the internet comes back, I'll pop right on and create a new YouTube room, send you guys a link, and continue with the lesson. All right. Usually these live lessons last, I'm here for around 2 hours. If I have questions along the way, it might extend to 3 hours. It happens sometimes. I don't have any time limit. I don't like setting time limits for these live sessions because I am here to help you guys with whatever I can, answer questions. Sometimes I do an extra demo or two. It all depends on how things flow and everyone here and what you need. I'm here to help you guys out. This is a safe space. We're all here learning and growing together. So please feel free to use the beautiful chat area for whatever you want to share, whatever questions you have. There are no dumb questions. If you have any questions, please leave them in there, and I am always happy to help. And if for some reason, I lose your comment, I'm sure that someone else, all of you lovely people are always helping each other out as well, which is a beautiful thing. So yeah. Anyway, okay, so what else? I have 5 cats and a chicken in my backyard. Sometimes the chicken does go crazy and start making a lot of noise. If that happens, I'm super sorry. And let's just hope that it doesn't happen this time. I think 2 months ago she did start going crazy in the middle of the live stream. Maybe for like 5, 10 minutes. I can't remember, but it could happen. Construction noises, dogs, that kind of thing can happen as well. Super sorry about any like sound, interference, let's say, that might happen along the way. So I think that is it. Yeah, chat. Yeah. Okay. So if there are any questions on anything, please let me know. Oh, and if you're a Patreon member, I did send out the reference photos that I'm going to be using today in the lesson as downloadable attachments at the end of the post that I sent out yesterday, and in the final reminder post that I sent out just like 10 minutes ago or so. If you scroll back down to the bottom of that post, you'll find the PDF attachments that I have prepared for you. And they are 8 photos in total, 4 organic objects and 4 man-made objects. And I'll be walking you through these exercises from simpler objects toward more complex objects so that we can work through these incrementally in terms of challenge. All right. So if you want to grab those, make sure to just pop on over to my Patreon. The post that I shared yesterday and today is free for anyone. I believe you don't even have to have a Patreon account in order to access those posts with the references in case you would like to grab them. And I do these live streams every single month. I do a drawing live stream and then a watercolor live stream, a drawing live stream, alternating because of what I was mentioning before, where for me it is super important to continue creating resources and lessons on both sketching or drawing and watercolor or painting, because I do like painting with a variety of mediums. But usually, when it comes to the online space, I have focused on watercolor pencil for the most part, and mixed media here and there. All right. Awesome. Welcome, Valerie, Maryland, amazing. Ontario, super cool. All right, everyone. So I think that is it. Let me go ahead and start with the introduction to Quick Sketch. So before getting into the actual exercises, hi there, nice to see you. Before getting into the exercises, I do want to explain what Quick Sketch is, why it is different from the type of drawing exercises or drawing in general where you take a very long time and give yourself an indefinite amount of time to finish the piece. Why is it different from that? Why are those two types of drawing practice different? And how can you benefit from taking up a Quick Sketch practice? What can you learn from Quick Sketch that you don't necessarily develop or learn with normal drawings where you don't have a time limit, a time constraint? All right, so first of all, Quick Sketch is, sorry, my hair is always crazy. Quick Sketch. What is Quick Sketch? It's the type of drawing practice where you're usually timing yourself. It's faster. Usually, when it comes to Quick Sketch, you are using some type of actual timer. There is no specific time that you need to set for yourself. For some people, It might be 1 minute, others it might be 3, others it might be 7 minutes or 10 or even 15 minutes. It all depends on what it is that you are sketching in that moment. Because if you're sketching a house with trees and whatnot, you're probably going to need more time than if you're sketching, say, an apple or a coffee mug. And also, not only this, but it depends on your personal skill level. All right. If you're just jumping into quick sketch right now, this is your first time that you're practicing this, I would recommend giving yourself up to 10, 15 minutes if you need to, and making sure that you're starting with simpler single objects. Okay? Not faces, not animals, not full scenes, objects, single objects. And then as you continue building your confidence and your skills, bring in more objects, more intricate objects. Then sketch complete still life arrangements. Once you're there, move on to scenes or landscapes, and then move on to things that require an anatomical knowledge, like faces or figures or animals. In my personal opinion, anything that requires anatomical knowledge is going to be more advanced, is going to be more challenging. Even in these cases where with quick sketch, we're not going for precision or anatomical proportion perfection, okay? With quick sketch, what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to capture the essence of the object or the subject matter, okay? We're not trying to spend too long on getting things with super precise proportions or a super correct perspective even. If you know these things, it'll help you for sure. But ultimately, the goal of quick sketch is to capture just the essence, right? And to get things down on paper as quickly as you can and allowing your line work and your marks to flow, all right? It's about dynamic kind of communicating energetic lines, and marks and doing things as quickly as possible. This said, it is important that if you're just getting started, you give yourself a little bit more time. But simply knowing that you have set your timer for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever the case may be, is going to make you work faster, instead of just giving you an indefinite amount of time. So I hope that makes sense. That is essentially what quick sketch is. And I've already shared some tips right there on what to do in order to avoid overwhelm and frustration if you're just getting started with this kind of practice. It's always super important, no matter what you're doing, that you meet yourself where you're at, okay? Because trying to tackle subject matter or techniques, full paintings, whatever, when you're not ready for that, when you haven't broken things down and practice skills individually, is likely going to lead to frustration, to a feeling that you just don't have it in you to create great art. You're just not meant to be an artist. And that is not the case at all. It's just simply that you're not meeting yourself where you're at. You're not looking for resources that are meant for your current skill level, and you're not building those skills incrementally, All right, cool. So what is the other thing I wanted to say? Okay, so what are the things that quick sketch allow you to develop, the skills that this type of drawing practice allows you to develop that are different from the I'm not going to call it traditional, but the way other types of drawing practices work, where you're giving yourself an indefinite amount of time. What I have seen is that if you don't practice drawing or even painting faster, if you don't put yourself through exercises where you're timing yourself, or at least you're setting yourself some type of time constraint, an hour if you're painting, whatever, it depends on what you're drawing or painting. But if you never do that, you'll never develop that skill to draw or paint faster, to lay down things fast on paper, to get those energetic lines in. You never develop that the pencil control and that line quality that you're able to develop, the confidence that you're able to develop through quick sketch. Not to mention this is something that I always recommend beginners from the beginning of your sketching practice make time for, because through quick sketch, you're able to really strengthen the connection between your eyes, brain, and hand and arm muscles. Because since you need to put down on paper as quickly as possible the most important information that you're taking in through your eyes, it builds that connection between your eyes, brain, and muscles in a way that longer drawing simply does not. Okay, so those are super super important skills to develop as artists. Your observation, that connection, because that's what it is. You're taking in visual information through your eyes. Your brain is processing what is most essential that you capture, and through your hand and your arm, you are making it happen, making that information happen on your sketchbook, on your drawing paper, whatever it is that you're working on. And the final thing, and this is something that I mentioned in my drawing mini course for the total beginner, which is free. The lessons are actually on YouTube, but I do have a full page where I have those video lessons in and the downloadables below each lesson. If you would like access to that page where everything is set up for you so that you can go lesson by lesson and grab all of the attachments, feel free to reach out via email. My email is hello@ericalancaster.com. Erica with a K, not a C, just a K. And I'll send you the link to that page. I'd be super happy to. But in those first lessons in that mini course, I explain about the importance of holding your pencil. Sorry, a cat just walked by. It's very important that you learn how to hold the pencil effectively for drawing. The overhand grip, the overhand grip, the underhand grip, the tripod, extended tripod. These are all pencil grips that I would recommend exploring if you haven't already, because if you try to do a quick sketch like this, which is a tighter tripod grip that you are used to because this is the way that you have written throughout your entire life, this is not the correct way to do quick sketch. Maybe at the very end, if you have time to add in details, you can shift your pencil grip to something like this. But it is important that for me, you're going to see me use the overhand grip quite a lot so that the entire side of the tip of my pencil is coming into contact with my paper, especially in the beginning of my drawing. And then maybe I switch to an extended tripod or something like that. But it is very important that you explore those pencil grips, which I explain in that mini course. And another thing is learn to draw with your entire arm. This is what people call drawing from the shoulder, as opposed to just allowing your forearm to rest on your table and just moving your hand and your wrist. It's not going to allow you to develop that pencil control and that line quality that is so helpful when you're doing quick sketch. And even you can even, that translates into better drawings overall. But please make sure that you're trying to move your entire arm as opposed to just doing this. And if you haven't checked out those lessons, explore the different pencil grips, draw different types of lines and shapes. I recommend working on large newsprint sheets every day for like 10 minutes, and you're going to develop a better line quality, and it's going to feel more comfortable for you to use your pencil with actual drawing grips as opposed to just the traditional tripod grip like this, which is what a lot of beginners use. And then you could even start developing arthritis pains and stuff like that if you're holding your pencil too tightly. Get loose. You have to relax your arm, your hand, your wrist, relax it. It's going to help you a ton when you're doing quick sketch. And the final thing that I also mentioned in one of those first lessons in my mini course is buy yourself a cheap drawing board, or even you can see that wooden, what's it called? Not a sheet, piece of wood that I got at Home Depot. I got I got a guy to cut that into a size that I feel I could use for drawing and painting right there on my easel. That is my drawing board. And it is very, very helpful for you to practice on a tilted surface. And in that lesson, I explain why it is so important to practice your drawing on a tilted surface. It's going to help you learn to draw from the shoulder, move your entire arm, because you're working in a different position as opposed to just on a flat horizontal surface like a table or a desk, which gravity is going to pull your forearm down, and it's not going to encourage you to draw from the shoulder. Now, with my setup right now, I am working on a flat horizontal surface because of how my camera is set up. It's pointing down, and I want you to be able to see what I'm doing as clearly as possible. So I am doing it here, but I would find it a lot easier to draw on a tilted surface because then I notice that perspective is not so good and stuff like that. However, because I practice both consistently, I am able to draw okay on a flat horizontal surface, but it's not as good as what I would do on at least a slightly tilted surface. Does that, I just threw a lot of information at you, so let me know if you have any questions, but I hope that that makes sense. Thank you so much. You're so kind. All right. So I think that I have explained everything that I wanted to explain about Quick Sketch, what it is, why it is so important, how to start. Okay, cool. If you have any questions, let me know and I'd be happy to answer. And I do have a online timer open on my computer, and I will be setting the timer for 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes as we go. And you're going to hear when the timer goes off. It's going to do this. You're going to hear like a beep. And okay, so I'm going to take care of that for us. For every single drawing that we go through, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you why I choose the amount of minutes that I have chosen. And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, or go, and that's when we're going to start. And then when the timer goes off, you're going to hear that beep, and that is when we have to stop. In some cases, I do, especially when you're just getting started, or you maybe haven't tried just quick, or you haven't practiced quick sketching in a while, or maybe you haven't practiced quick sketching that specific subject. Sometimes when the timer goes off, I do allow myself an extra 5 minutes or whatever the case may be. And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, go in knowing why you're giving yourself those extra 5 minutes and what maybe you should have changed in your process. Okay, cool, awesome. So let me go ahead and share my my tools with you that I have with me today, which are very simple. I just have a few sketching supplies on hand. I am using it's a 9 by 12 inch drawing sketchbook from Strathmore. 9 by 12 inches. Okay. I would not recommend working on or in a smaller size of sketchbook or drawing paper. This is probably the smallest size that I would recommend for quick sketching. Why? Because again, if you're working very small, a small format like this is not going to encourage you to move your entire arm. You're going to stay very constricted in one little space, and you're going to find it very hard to do loose, to do, flowing general. The point of quick sketch is not to get precise. It's not the tiny details. It's just we're going from large to small, general towards specific. And sometimes we don't even get to the smaller details. It all depends on whether the timer goes off or not. Okay. So nothing smaller than 9 by 12 inches. That is my suggestion. And then when it comes to my pencil, I'm just going to be using one single pencil grade. This is a 6B pencil. Why one pencil grade and why a 6B? So a 6B pencil is within the softer range, something like a 4B, a 5B, even an 8B if you already have enough control. But working with anything harder than this is going to make it difficult for you to sketch fast and to achieve a range of values and a range of line quality if you're going with a harder pencil grade. And we don't have time to switch between different pencil grades in this type of drawing practice. So by using a softer pencil grade, you're going to be able to achieve lighter lines and darker lines, or lighter areas and darker areas, by just shifting the pressure that you're exerting on your pencil. Okay. So again, check out my drawing mini course if you want to develop your line quality and you want to know the specific exercises that I would recommend to develop that, because you do have to have a certain amount of control to shift the pressure as you go, as you're sketching. Okay. But what I will say is that in the beginning of the drawing process, you want to keep things light. Okay. As you're building shapes and proportions. And then as you move on to possibly shading, if you do have time to do any shading, you can press down a little bit harder. But you don't want to start your drawing dark, because if you do, you're not, it's very important that you keep things flexible in the beginning, because you're not going to get shapes and proportions down right off the bat. You need to start, laying lines down and shapes down on paper, and then, you know kind of, fix it as you go. You need to see before you fix in order to fix. We're not magicians who can just draw things perfectly right off the bat. That's not really the point. So keep things flexible in the beginning. All right, cool. And so that's it when it comes to my pencil. And I have two erasers as well. I have this soft graphite eraser. This is from a brand called Generals. It's probably my favorite eraser brand. And this is just a regular kneadable eraser. And for this type of drawing practice, a lot of erasing really is not encouraged. Do as little erasing as possible is what I would suggest. Maybe in the beginning you're erasing more, but as you move forward with this practice, you want to erase less and less. And so I have these on hand, but I'm going to try to just bring them in if I have to, and just erase something really quick and move on, okay? And that is it. That's all I have. That's all I'm going to be using. Now, let me go ahead and share my first photo with you. So hold on. The first sketch that we're going to be working on is this peach. We're starting nice and simple. All right. So I have my online timer with me right here. And I want you guys, just honestly, to tell me in the chat, knowing everything that I have shared with you on Quick Sketch, what the objective is, what we're going for, tell me how many minutes you feel you need for this item, for this peach. Do you feel comfortable with 5 minutes for this one? Taking into account that this is just the warm-up, okay? This is just a simple warm-up that we're doing. Tell me in the chat and we can decide together. And something, if you're feeling tight, many of us, get really tight because of stress and everything that we have to do on our day-to-day. If you are feeling tension in your shoulders, in your hand, if you need to loosen up, I would highly recommend, I'm waiting for your answer in the chat, okay? So do tell me. I'm keeping an eye out. But I would recommend just working on releasing that tension, moving your entire arm. My forearm, my elbow, nothing is coming into contact with my paper as I'm doing this, okay? I'm practicing holding my pencil effectively for drawing. This is kind of an overhand grip that I'm using right now. And doing this type of practice where you're just filling up a sketchbook page or a newsprint paper page, whatever you'd like to use, with different kinds of lines and shapes, to practice, just to release that tension, to get comfortable with holding your pencil, with laying down lines and shapes. This is a very helpful warm-up exercise that you can do if you want to get a little bit more, if you want to feel a little bit more prepared for what we're doing today, and honestly, any kind of drawing that you may be working on. This kind of practice where you're just loosely creating lines and shapes, anything that comes to mind, this is how we get comfortable with all of this, with moving our entire arm, with using different pencil grips, even the extended tripod grip. Try it out. Try it out and see the difference in line quality that you can achieve. Very different line quality here and here. Okay. Notice the difference in lines depending on the grip that you're using. Okay. And get comfortable with these different pencil grips. Really try, if you're using the tighter tripod grip, you really should be saving that for the very end of the drawing process, if at all. Okay, I think that I have some 5 minutes would be enough. Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me know. So I think that everyone is okay with 5 minutes for this first one. Great. Awesome. Um, if you want me to give you a couple of minutes to do this quick warm up, let me know. Okay, just draw lines, draw shapes. This is not about perfection. Circles, maybe larger circles. I do have a video on my channel where I explain why drawing circles is so difficult, and I provide exercises to help you improve your circles and your ovals and that kind of stuff. All right, awesome. Hopefully you were able to get in at least a little bit of a warm up. And I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes, and we'll give this peach a try. I'm going to try to fit in at least 2 objects, maybe even 3 in each sketchbook page. We'll see how that works. But let me set my timer. I'm going to do 5 minutes. Set timer. All right, timer has been set. You guys ready? Let me have a sip of coffee and we'll give this one a go. My kneadable eraser is full of cat hair. It's kind of just used it the other day and it's got a lot of graphite in it. Are you good? Are all of you okay to go, or would you like a couple of extra minutes for your warm-up? All right, I have no comments, so we're gonna start, okay? I'm gonna start with my overhand grip. Remember my 3 keys to drawing anything: large to small, general to specific. That's gonna help you with proportions. The next one is simplify whatever you're drawing into basic shapes or a combination of basic shapes. And number 3 is draw lightly, especially in the beginning. All right, remember those 3 things. All righty, so you guys are ready. Awesome. So we're starting with this first one in 3, 2, 1, go. Timer is going and you'll hear it beep when we're done. I'm going to try to keep it over here. So if you've ever checked out any of my lessons on where I'm doing the block-in, that's essentially what I start with. My little block-in, simplifying everything into a basic blocky shape. And then I do, I start with the largest shape, which is the peach itself. And then I'm just going to add the cute little leaf. I'm not erasing anything. I'm trying my best to just keep those lines there. And if in a moment I have a little bit of time to erase, I'll erase. Okay, so then I have my little stem. It's a short stem. And I'm gonna do this kind of visual line there, though it's not really a line. Erase this quick. And I have the general, what would be the outline, as you can see. So from here, and I'm just gonna tell you like my steps and my thought process in the beginning, and then later on in the other exercises, I'll be quiet, I promise. But I just want to share my thought process so that you know what is going through my brain. And then you'll get more comfortable with these as we go. You'll have the steps in your brain. Okay, so from here I have finished with the outline drawing. My proportions are good, not perfect, but again, we're not going for perfection. If my outline drawing has been finished, I can go ahead and start with my shading or even smaller details if I have the time, right? So for this, I'm just doing some quick sketchy shading. And once I get into deeper and darker values that I might want to create, I go ahead and press down a little bit more, okay? But I'm not really exerting much pressure right now. as I'm starting, and I'm noticing where the lighter areas are, where the darker areas are. I'm pretty sure that this is an edited photograph because I don't see a shadow on the ground. However, from what I can see here in this photo and the lights and the darks, I can sense that the light is hitting this object from the right. And so if I wanted to make this drawing a little bit more complete and I have time to add in a shadow, I would add it on the lower left. And then from here, I can just push darker values. Now I'm exerting a little bit more pressure. I haven't drawn all day, so this is my warm up. Okay, I'm warming up with you. And once I'm happy with how things are looking, I can go ahead and add even looser lines and marks. I tend to go with scribbling, even like little scribbling motions, make things even more energetic and expressive. But I save those for after things are starting to look okay, after things have taken shape. I allow myself to go in more loosely. You see how much time we have left. Okay, we have 1 minute, 10 seconds left. And you'll hear the beep, okay? This is the warm up. It's all good. I try to lose some edges just to give this a little bit more of a sense of realism. In realism, we have lost edges. Instead of creating a thick outline around the objects, we have edges where, sometimes they get lost. Even had a chance to add in a little bit of a tone in the background, in my case. That said, I'm pretty much done. Let me stand up for a sec. I'm sitting in an awkward position. It's going to affect me later in my drawings. I'm trying to position myself more comfortably. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, timer is about to go off. There it is. All right. How did you guys do? Tell me in the chat. Let me know how you did with this one, if you felt rushed, if you were not able to arrive at the finish that you wanted. Maybe you wanted to add more shading. Let me know. I want to hear about it in the chats because these objects are going to get a little bit more difficult and a little bit more difficult as we go. And by the way, we're starting with the organic objects, and then we're going to be moving on to the man-made objects, which have straighter lines, more perspective work, and stuff like that. Organic tend to be easier because we have imperfections, we have irregularity, and also perspective. When we're drawing a man-made object like a box or a house or a car, anything like that, there are straighter lines and more geometric forms, and perspective has to be understood, maybe not captured perfectly, but understood by you so that you can draw something that is at least coherent, understood as a three-dimensional form that is sitting in space. So we're starting that's why I chose to start with organic. How did you guys do? And tell me what pencil grade you chose. Are you working with a 4B, a 6B, an 8B like myself? Let's see. Okay, I seem to have no comments. So I'm going to pop up the second image on screen. Let me see what I chose for the second one, the kiwi. Okay. The kiwi. Okay, I have a comment. Let's see. Good. Very interesting that you didn't just draw a circle. 6B, very sharp and awesome. Awesome, awesome. Glad to hear that. Yes, I actually very rarely do I start with a circle. I start with a block in where I lay down straight lines to create a general oversimplified shape. Not bad, not enough shading in the leaf. Awesome, Michelle. Thank you so much for letting me know. It's good to think about how far you were able to go. It's good for assessing your current level, and then you can move forward onto the next one just with more of an understanding of how much time you think you're going to need, and all that kind of stuff. 4B did well. Awesome, Maria. Thank you so much for letting me know. Great. All right, everyone. So we're now taking it a step forward, a little bit more challenging, and we're drawing this kiwi, which has been cut in half. So there's a little bit of perspective work here because one of these kiwi halves is facing a little bit more toward us and tilting. They're both tilting, but the one that is facing a little bit more toward us is tilting more, if that makes sense. And the one that is a tiny bit farther back is facing more toward the ceiling, right? And so what this does is that it changes the ovals that the top plane creates. So a kiwi is imagine it as being like a three-dimensional oval, right? Like an egg, if you will. It's cut in half, and now that three-dimensional egg structure has a flat plane. And that flat plane is an oval. And sometimes drawing these circles or ovals in perspective is challenging. But what I want you to see is the difference between the oval that this kiwi has. Like, what is the difference between the oval that this kiwi creates versus the oval created by the kiwi in the back, which is more tilting toward the ceiling? And so that oval becomes a little bit flatter and more narrow, right? Versus this front one is a little bit more open. But it's the same kiwi. It's just that they have different orientations in space, different tilts, and that is going to change the perspective of the object. So just notice the difference in those ovals. It's always very helpful to take a moment to observe the photo or whatever it is that you have in front of you in real life that you're drawing. Take a moment to just sit with that for just a minute or two and ask yourself, what are the challenges that this one is going to have? Because when it comes to this one, it's those ovals. If you get those ovals, or I say ovals, but I guess it's an oval, but it's at a perspective. If you get those ovals right, it's just a matter of doing the smile, the line below it, and you're good, right? But ask yourself, what is the challenge here? What could be the sticking point for me? And then you can kind of have that in mind as you go. Okay, awesome. So how long do you think you'll need for this photo? Do you think 5 minutes is okay? Do you think you need a little bit more? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the chats. And I might challenge you a little bit with this one because I think that with the first one, you could have probably done it in 4 minutes, but I want to keep things as maybe just, push you a little bit, just a little bit past your comfort zone. I don't want to push you too much that things become overwhelming, but I don't want to make this super easy either. I want to just push you a tiny bit past your comfort zone each time. My pencil is still relatively sharp, so I don't think I need to sharpen it right now. I should have my sharpener somewhere near me though. 5 minutes? Awesome, Carol. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. 6B did okay. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. 5 to 8 minutes. All right. Thank you, Michelle. My nails were painted green just like before this. I just quickly removed my nail polish, and so I still have green in some sections of my nails, and I just realized that it might look like I have, I don't know, dirty nails or something. I just had green nail polish on. All right. Okay, so I have two people are suggesting 5 to 8 minutes. I'm gonna keep it at 5 minutes. Okay. Maybe 6. Let's do 6 minutes. Okay. Just because we have two different items here. Okay. So I'm gonna set my timer for 6 minutes. Okay. I seem to have no more suggestions or comments here, so let's give this one a go. All right. Ready? Timer has been set for 6 minutes, and we're starting in 3, 2, and 1. Let's go. Okay, overhand grip. I'm gonna sit in my chair. Timer is going, you guys. I'm gonna do my quick envelope. God, I'm sitting in a very weird position. I should not be sitting like this. Okay. Yeah, I really recommend sitting in a comfortable position when you're doing this or drawing in general. Okay, how far away is this oval from the other one, and what tilt does it have? Just keep it moving, keep it flowing. Don't let any single area stop you, or don't spend too long in any single area. No worries there. It's okay, I understand. Okay. Uh, okay. So see how I created the ovals, quote unquote ovals, because I used a series of straight lines that I brought together. The widths of the ovals, I'm trying to get close, like near the same width, because it is the same fruit. It's the same kiwi. And yes, this half kiwi on the right is ever so slightly behind the front one. So it could make it look a little bit smaller. However, it's not so far back that the proportions would be different, like super different. So I want to make the widths of the ovals relatively similar. And also notice how far up the kiwi on the right is when related, or when you compare it with the kiwi on the left. It's a little bit higher up in the picture plane. Do you notice that? That is how I can tell that it is farther back, because it is a little bit higher up in the picture plane. Okay, so my blocking is done. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start with the detail, making my way toward the smaller details and shapes. The lighter inner, like central section of the kiwi, which is almost, it's a very, very light green, maybe even an off-white, should match the larger oval that you created for the, where we started, right? It should match it, because if it doesn't match, you're going to affect the believable sense of perspective. All right, cool. So some lines, maybe light lines, like a star coming out from that central section here as well. And then I move on to some very small seeds close to the center, clustering them together in different ways. I'm not really trying to copy the reference photo, especially not with the seeds. There's a lot of variety in things like this when it comes to how many seeds are clustering together. And then finally, I think I'm going to start with the shading. So with this one, we do see the shading, or I shouldn't say shading. We do see the shadow on the surface in this one. So the photo has not been edited, or at least not as much as the first photo that we were using, where the fruit was basically cut from the background. Okay, I'm going to start with the shading, just some quick covering up of my paper surface here to develop darker values in certain areas. I'm still not exerting much pressure at all, by the way. And then the inner part of the kiwi is way lighter than the outer part of the kiwi. So maybe the green part I shade very, very minimally. I don't touch the center of the kiwi, and I just focus on developing a bit of a layer of graphite in my shadow areas. Okay. So that is it. That was all I was able to do in 5 minutes. Or was it 6? I can't remember. Reset. No, it was 6, I think. Hi there. Welcome, wildlife. Welcome, welcome. We're doing some quick sketching today. So as you can see with this one, I was not able to achieve the darker values that I was able to achieve over here. So I was not able to get to that. That is perfectly fine. If you wanted to give yourself an extra minute or two after your timer goes off, that's perfectly fine as well. Just set your timer again for whatever many minutes you want and continue, right? But this is very good practice because you're learning a lot about yourself, a lot about your skill level, and you're honing the steps when it comes to the drawing process itself, starting from large, making your way to small, general towards specific, simplifying into shapes, pencil control. You're developing all of these skills. And it's a quick way to develop these skills as well, because you can do, 4 or 5 sketches in, depending on what you're drawing, in less than an hour. Okay, let's see. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch to the next photo. Let's see. What do I have next? I have strawberries. So now we have 3 items, and these are strawberries, and they're all facing toward or angling toward different directions. So let's just see what's going on in the reference photo here before starting. What are some possible challenges that we have? What I like kind of visualizing is when it comes to fruit, they have a stem, right? And that stem is like an axis that is going right down the middle of the fruit. Imagine like a stick or whatever, like going a rod, if you will, going right down the stem and right down the center of the fruit. And if now that you imagine that axis, you can now visualize the tilt, because If you know that that axis is going right down the center of the fruit, those little sticks or rods are going to be pointing toward different directions. And that is going to help you visualize the angle or the orientation of the object in space. So that's something that I like kind of pulling from when it comes to fruit, especially because of the stems that I think they all have stems. Um, so that's a little tip for you. So that's a challenge that this one has. Aside from that, they have little teeny tiny leaves as well. And just like with the little seeds in the kiwi and even the leaf in this one, though this one just has one leaf, so I did try to make it similar to the leaf in the photo, but I don't want you to get too hung up on sketching the leaves exactly as they are in the photo, because what matters most, it is creating a sketch that looks like a strawberry, right? And in order to do that, you have to just pull from the most essential characteristics. What are the essential characteristics that this needs to have in order to make it look like a strawberry, in order for the viewer to understand that they are viewing a strawberry? It's the general shape, kind of like a heart shape, like a triangular shape like that. It's the seeds, it's the little leaves going around the stem section. But a leaf doesn't, there are so many different leaves, and you don't have to force yourself to create a very specific shape for it to look like a leaf. You don't have to copy the leaf shapes exactly as they are in the photo. As long as you create leaf shapes that go with the perspective of that strawberry and that are similar in terms of size and shape to what you're observing, you're going to end up with something that looks like a strawberry. So just ask yourself, what are the main characteristics that I need to make sure to bring in? And then focus on those main characteristics and allow everything else to loosely just flow as you go. So let me know how many minutes you think you'll need for this one. I think that's 6 minutes, maybe 7. What do you guys think? Reset. Okay. I have a sip of coffee. Six. Awesome. Okay. So let's go with 6. Position myself here. And I seem to have no more comments. So let's go with 6. I'm going to try to fit my strawberries right here. But if you need to switch to a brand new page in your sketchbook, go ahead and do that as well. Okay? And remember, keep your forearm lifted throughout the drawing process as much as you can. Try not to allow gravity to pull your forearm down, because you don't want to just move your wrist. Try to move your entire arm as you do this. 8 mix. While you talk about the next item. Okay, great. So Carol suggests 8 minutes. How about we do 7? Something in between. Would that be okay? I want to push you guys just a little bit out of your comfort zone. Let's see. All right. So I think I'm going to leave it at 7. Okay. I hope that's okay with you. Cool. Okay. So I've set my timer for 7 minutes, and we're starting in 3, 2, and 1, and go. I've started the timer. 7 minutes, let's go. Okay, so I'm gonna do the front strawberry first. Let's see if this fits. And back strawberry. Try to work a little bit faster. I'm gonna try not to talk so much. It's gonna be the third one, so I hope that the process is making sense by this point. Quick erasing. Where's the stem? Where is the stem? Can't see it here, can't see it here. A little one back here. I'm gonna save the seeds until the end because they are the smallest detail. And this comes down, this goes up. Okay, shapes are down. Start with my seeds. Where are the shadows? Here we do see shadows on the surface. I'm gonna try to get those in just a moment. I need to definitely change to a new page for my next one. Otherwise, I'm not gonna be practicing drawing with my through my shoulder effectively if I start getting too small. Okay, shadows. Smoothing out my geometric shapes a bit. Shading. Where do I see darks? Keep it moving, keep it moving. Just keep going, do whatever you can. Let's see, trying to lose some edges. Not sure how much time is left because I don't have the timer open, but I'll check in just a bit. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. Let me check how much time is left. We have 48 seconds. Just do what you can. Alrighty, that is it. How did you guys do with this one? Can we just staple the seeds? What do you mean with that photo, Laz? I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Do you mean like removing it with your eraser? What? I'm not quite sure what you mean with that. Um, but essentially, whatever technique it is that you enjoy using for the seeds, feel free to do it. I mean, as long as it's within this time frame or constriction that we are setting for ourselves, you can use whatever technique you want. And I do like kind of using my finger to kind of blur things out or smudge things as well, which is easy when you're using a softer pencil grade. Sometimes it's helpful to do this smudging technique with your finger when you're working on quicker sketches because it helps save time. If you already have that graphite on your paper and you're just smudging that and extending it, that can give you a little bit of a light value in some areas where maybe you just have like flat white. So consider that as well. Awesome. So let's see what stipple. Of course. Yes. Sorry. Yes, you can absolutely stipple. Use a stippling technique for the seeds. Absolutely. I do like making marks, for example, for strawberries, where the mark is a little bit longer than it is wide, because we don't want to create circles for the seeds. That wouldn't look very natural. So the marks that I use for the seeds, they are ever so slightly longer than they are wide. You know what I mean? But aside from that, absolutely, you can use stippling. Alrighty, so let's see. Let's move on to the next one, which is okay, the pineapple. So I'm definitely going to need more space for this one. Let me go ahead and switch to a brand new sheet. So this is definitely a tall object. So I want to give myself enough space here. And let me know in the chats how many minutes you think you need for this next object. We have, what do we have? We have a kind of an egg shape. And what I personally would consider challenging about this particular object are the leaves and the kind of pattern texture that pineapples have, which is kind of like what do you call it? Like diamond shapes. Um, and it's hard because initially you might feel like going in and drawing like a grid with straight lines to create those diamond shapes, but I would recommend against that. I wouldn't recommend that because again, this is an organic natural object, and if we start forcing very perfect patterns in an organic object, it might end up looking unnatural. So I am not going to attempt to draw every single diamond shape. I'm just going to draw some, and I'm not going to be drawing straight lines across the shape. I'm going to avoid that, and I'm just going to maybe create shorter lines, but imperfect lines as I subtly, loosely describe the diamonds. Okay. But mostly avoid straight lines because this object is curved. Okay, if you start drawing straight lines from one edge to the other edge, it's going to flatten out the form of the pineapple. So, for the most part, no straight lines, and don't try to describe or draw every single diamond shape. Just draw a few and see how that goes. Okay, and also remember that the diamond shapes they it's not like a stamp or they're all the same because the texture follows the form of the pineapple. So the diamonds that we see closer to the edges of the form are not the same when compared to the diamonds in the center. We see the diamonds in the center more fully because we are flat facing forward. That's the closest part to us and it's facing toward us. But then as the diamonds recede toward the left and the right and the top and the bottom, they get distorted because of perspective. So don't try to force a perfect pattern because that's not what's going on. And oftentimes we draw things the way we think they look like and not what they actually look like in real life, which is one of the reasons why using references is so important when we're trying to arrive at any kind of realism and understand objects more. And later on, if you want to draw them from imagination, you totally can, but you first studied them via references. Okay. Now, the leaves are also quite challenging because some of them are facing up or sorry, pointing up, and others are bending toward us and toward the left and right. And so they have different orientations and different levels of curves. Um, So yeah, and we see different sections of them. The leaves that are coming toward us, we see the front and the top maybe, but then the leaves that are facing toward the left and the right, we see the side of the leaf. So it's different what we see. How many minutes do you think would be appropriate for this one? 10. Okay. Getting harder. Yes, Carol. Yes, they're getting harder. Hola. Hola, Ronnie. Rodriguez. Okay. I think I should sharpen my pencil. Let's see. Sharpening, nice and sharp. Okay, so I think 10 minutes is a great time for this one. This is the last one of the organic objects, by the way. And we're getting into man-made objects after this one. Okay, cool. So I've set my timer for 10 minutes. 10 minutes for this one. And it seems like everyone's ready. Okay, so we're starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Timer has been activated. Let's do this. So for this one, let's see. gonna start with my block in. I'm gonna be quiet, allow you to work in peace. And keep it moving, don't stop. Energy in your lines leads to an energetic looking drawing, a drawing with more energy. This is also a great exercise to work on that perfectionism. Do you see a bit of a shadow in this one? On the lower left. No idea how much time we have left. Just keep going until the timer goes off. See how much time we have. Let me check. 55 seconds. There it is. How did you guys do with this last organic object? I don't think I had ever quick sketched a pineapple before. That was fun. All right. Let's see what we have next. Next, we have our first man-made object. So we did 4 organic, and now we're going to do 4 man-made. And the first man-made object is going to be this watering can. And it's at a tilt, so it's not standing upright. I'm going to try to use this half of my page. Okay, let's see. That one was fun, lots of detail. Yeah, so much going on with the pineapple. I think it really helped me to create a lot of irregularity along the edges because of all these pokey things that are coming out of it from all angles. A lot going on. I think 10 minutes was a very good amount of time for something like this, especially if you haven't done much quick sketching before. Okay, so first man-made object, we have this watering can. So let's just take a quick moment to observe it and notice any possible challenges that we might have. So for this one, we have this kind of cylindrical structure, right? Which is the main part of this object is that cylinder. It's the largest form, and then the handle and the spout or whatever it's called are secondary parts or forms that are connected to that main slightly tapered cylinder that we see there. Okay, so what we have to get in first, what I would suggest is starting with the bulk of the can, which is that cylinder. Now, as with all cylinders and even round structures like the Kiwi, for example, that we drew before, we have that oval at the top, which if we were to stand directly above this watering can looking down into it, it would be a circle, same as its space at the bottom. However, because it is at an angle, the oval gets tilted and all of a sudden it's not a circle, it's an oval. So try to pay attention to that oval, and then just know that when it comes to cylinders, the bottom is also an oval, and it has to fit, it has to make sense, that bottom curve, with the curve that you have created in the top oval. Because if you create an open, let's just say you're trying to draw a cylinder, and if you create a very open circle over here at the top and you do this at the bottom, or it's very kind of flat, it's not going to make sense, because ultimately you're telling me that this, like, it's something like this at the bottom. If this were a see-through material, glass or something like that, you would be able to see the oval at the bottom. Okay, we can't because it's solid, opaque, whatever you want to call it. But we know that the bottom is also a circle because it's a cylinder, and the perspective of this oval has to make sense with the perspective of this oval. All right, and this curve here just doesn't fit with this curve. Okay. Same thing if you were to do something like this, and then the bottom, usually the bottom is a little bit more open, but that's due to foreshortening and it's a more advanced topic. But if you're telling me something like this, it wouldn't make sense either, because this curve doesn't make sense with this or if you make it more pronounced, you know what I mean? Usually when you draw a very long cylinder, you do have a little bit of a difference between the top oval and the one at the bottom, which tends to be a little bit more open, ever so slightly, depending on how long the cylinder is and what perspective you're viewing it from and the foreshortening going on. But just if you're just getting started, what I would recommend is just making sure that the top curve that you create for the opening is very close, if not the same, to the curve you create in the base. And if you keep that idea in mind, that is going to be super helpful. Because if this curve is very similar to this curve, then the ovals are going to be very similar and the perspective is going to be consistent. A lot of people as well, they do a flat at the bottom and then a curve at the top when they're starting with cylinders, and that doesn't look, cylinders don't have a flat bottom to it or a flat top to it unless you're seeing the cylinder from a full flat profile view near your head level. Okay, so those are just a few tips for you there when it comes to cylinders. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. What do you think, how much time do you think you need for this one? See in the chat. Do you think you need 10 minutes as well? Or do you think you can manage with 9 minutes, 8 minutes? What do you think? I have a lot of graphite on my fingers. 8. Awesome. 3 days. No, that would not, that would not be quick sketch anymore, Ronnie. Okay, so 8 minutes. 8 minutes. All right, I'm gonna do 8 minutes, you guys. 8 minutes. Let me set my timer. Reset. All right, let's do this. Notice that slight tapering in the cylinder as well. Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Oops. Okay. Will this fit? Oh my god, I think it's not gonna fit. Will it? Will it fit? Probably gonna make it a little bit shorter so that it fits here. Oops. What's difficult as well about man-made objects is the symmetry that so many of them have. And just as a tip, for me, it really helps to visualize a vertical line right down the middle. Whenever you need some amount of symmetry, any amount of symmetry. Okay. Lift up your arm from your table, desk, whatever it is that you're working on. Don't press down too hard. Don't try to overly control. Relax your hand and your arm. Drawing is not the same as writing, so I know it's hard when we're just getting started with drawing because it's a completely different activity and process from writing, but the tool is very similar. So our kind of muscles and our brain are telling us to use pencils and pens in a very tight, controlled way. But when we're trying to write, we do want to do our best to have our letters look right. Like we don't want to have to rewrite our name or sentences or whatever, right? So we do expect to have a certain level of legibility. We do have to draw the letters as best as we can from the beginning. But when we're sketching, when we're drawing, it's not the same thing. We're building, we are refining, we are judging and changing as we go. I have no idea how much time we have left. Bye, Valerie. It was so nice to see you. Have a wonderful weekend. Let's see how much time we have left. Oop, 40 seconds. 40 seconds. There it is. How did you do with this first man-made object, you guys? Tell me, I want to know. Gonna get a little bit harder as we go. Our next photo is going to be bottles. Got a couple of bottles here, glass bottles. So the challenge in this one, I would definitely say, is the symmetry that we want to capture. The bottle in the back is definitely a tall object. And with tall, I mean it's a lot longer or taller than it is wide. And so this is where that middle vertical tool that I offered before is really going to come in handy to visualize that middle vertical going right down the middle of that bottle. And try to build to the left and to the right of that vertical. And then just try to make your shapes as symmetrical as you can, left and right. And then when it comes to the other bottle, what's hardest about that one is that we can see a little bit into it. So you can, especially in that neck portion, you can see a little bit into that oval opening, right? And the bottle in closest to us is more like a rectangular prism, whereas the bottle in the back is more like a cylinder. The bottle in the back has that cylindrical structure. The base of it is a cylinder. Then you could visualize the cone in the middle, in between the base of it and the neck of it. And then the top kind of neck portion is also a more narrow cylinder. And then the bottle in front is a rectangular prism, and it has a cylinder at the top, which is the neck portion. So when I'm drawing something like this, I like, maybe I'm starting with a very flat looking outline drawing, but in my head, I still understand these objects as being three-dimensional structures, and I acknowledge them as so, visualizing or having in my brain that, is this a cylinder? Is this a rectangular prism? What can I simplify this bottle as? Uh, so, yeah. Now, what planes can you see of that rectangular prism for this smaller bottle that is closest to us? We see the upper plane, which the neck connects into. We see the front plane, and we see a top plane for that rectangular prism. That is going to be hard when drawing that bottle in the front, is that we have to make sure that we communicate the planes that we see so that we end up with something that looks three-dimensional. And then the neck, I connect to that rectangular prism. Always try to get in the bulk of the object first, and then you build on that and make sure that the perspective is consistent in those different parts. Let me switch to a new page. Okay, let's see. Do. Very flat? You mean was the watering can very flat for you, Carol? Why do you think that is? Is it because of perspective? Um, why do you think things look flat? Also, let me know how many minutes you feel you need for this one here. Do you think 8 minutes is okay? 9 minutes? Less? These objects are not very detailed. They don't have much texture to them or anything like that. But what is challenging here would be capturing the three-dimensional structure of these man-made objects is the hard thing. Hola, Ariane. Ariane, the creative creator. Hello. Uh, perspective. Okay. So let's work on that, Carol. Let's work on the perspective. For something like that, I would recommend practicing your cylinders. Okay. Practice. This is why it's so important to practice simply drawing cylinders from different perspectives, rectangular prisms from different perspectives, things like cones, triangular prisms, because essentially man-made objects can be like the way to draw man-made objects effectively is to stem from those simple forms. And so if you practice drawing those simple forms from a variety of angles and perspectives, you're going to better draw these like more effectively and faster. And always like maybe not cylinders, but rectangular prisms, for example, I would highly recommend practicing in 1 and 2 and even 3 point perspective grids, which I do have some exercises on those in my channel and over on Patreon as well. Um, okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know how that one went. So work on your perspective. If that is why it's flat, I mean, it's very likely that the thing is that if perspective is not making sense, if you don't communicate perspective and form effectively in your preliminary sketch, no amount of shading is going to help something look three-dimensional. So the way that I see it, shading is like icing on a cake. The cake is the structure, the form that you communicate through your outline drawing. And perspective, in my personal opinion, is one of the most challenging fundamentals, which is a drawing fundamental to really understand and to spend time with. And for me, something that I always recommend students do is practice drawing different kinds of simple forms and really spend time with perspective grids. 1 and 2 point perspective initially, and then if you want to move on from there, you can do 3 point perspective or more challenging perspectives. Okay, awesome. So 9 minutes. Let's do this. Let me set this timer for 9 minutes, reset it. Good to go. All right, everyone. So I'm going to try to use this space in the left half of my sketchbook page here. Let's see how that goes. And let's do this. 1, 2, and go. Timer has gone off. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to start with this and make sure I have enough space. But what I was recommending is drawing a vertical line. Notice how my line is not perfect, okay? It's not perfect by any means, but it's still very, very helpful. And I'm gonna do this bottle, make it this tall, and then from here I'm gonna build. Build the left and the right half. But angle is that? Keeping my lines straight. I'll curve them later. Is this width similar to what I'm observing? Okay, and then this other one maybe comes down the picture plane, maybe here. And for this one, we have a rectangular prism, so slight angle, maybe reaches the halfway point. Top plane. All of these references are going to remain available through the Patreon post, which is free for anyone who would like to grab them. So if you want to work on these later on your own, they're going to be available for you there, as well as this class recording if you ever want to watch it again. Okay. Okay, so I have my rectangular prism in, as you can see, and now I connect the neck, which is a cylinder. And it's at an angle, of course. I need to keep perspective consistent here. Let me erase this. And how does that oval? This perspective is looking wonky. There's something off with my neck. Need to fix that. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more detail now. I'm so bad at sketch when I hold the pencil. How long have you tried to draw with this overhand pencil grip? Because if it's just been, if you haven't ever drawn with the overhand pencil grip in on a consistent kind of basis, consistently for a while, it is totally normal for it to be uncomfortable because you're so used to holding your pencil more in this grip. Your entire life, you have likely been holding your pencil like this. So you cannot expect yourself to be comfortable with a different pencil grip quickly, because it's likely not going to happen. Mm, okay, let's see. I'm gonna add a little bit more shading. Let's see. You take lots of artistic liberties here with the shading because of the glass, how it's you can't really see much of a value change here. We see a darker value in the middle of it, and then kind of reflected light along the edges. But because glass is so complex, it often throws us off in our shading. And this is definitely a still life arrangement that was, the photos were taken indoors with artificial lighting, and then glass is so reflective that sometimes we see values that don't necessarily communicate the location of the light source, but is mostly light values that are caused by reflective objects reflecting light onto it, or multiple light sources. I think in this case there are multiple light sources, and all of that can make the shading confusing. Just something to have in mind for this type of quick sketch exercise, where it's not really a matter of capturing realism, super precisely, or making things look super realistic. I'm just trying to keep it as loose as possible in my shading while still communicating my understanding of light and shadow. But again, this one is a little bit difficult when it comes to that. I'm going to leave this at that. See how you guys are doing. Um, Photo Last, thank you so much for popping in. Uh, Hope to see you around. Have a wonderful weekend. And Photo Laz, I'm not quite sure if you are a Patreon member or if you're a YouTube kind of viewer. If you're a YouTube viewer, make sure to subscribe and maybe even click on the notification bell. I do try to post a kind of little graphic telling you when the live streams will be taking place each month in the community tab on YouTube. And also over on Instagram, I also let people know when they are going to happen. They usually happen on the third Saturday of every month. Okay, that's it for this one. How did you guys do? And if you are on Patreon, you'll be the first to know when they are happening each month. Okay? I'm so glad it was helpful, Sherry. And thank you so much for your kindness and for popping in today. Looking forward to seeing you in the future. Um, let's see. Awesome. Yes. Give it a go. Like, one of the most helpful things that you can do, in my opinion, if you're finding it difficult to hold your pencil in different ways with different pencil grips, is spend 5 to 10 minutes every day. I really enjoy using large newsprint paper pads because they're pretty cheap, and you can just fill up entire pages with different kinds of lines and shapes while you practice different pencil grips, and try practicing on a tilted surface. Okay, I talk about the importance of practicing your drawing on a tilted surface in my drawing mini course for the total beginner, which, as I was mentioning at the top of this class, the videos of my drawing mini course are available on YouTube, but I also have a page in my website um, that holds all of the class videos in order and also has the downloadable references so that you can grab those and print them and view them large and all that, so if you want me to send you the link to that external page, feel free to email me at hello@ericalancaster.com, and I would be super happy to send it to you. It's Erica with a K, not a C, okay? Erica Lancaster. Alrighty, let's see. Paula, it's so good to see you here. Um, awesome, awesome. No worries. This is going to be available for you indefinitely. You'll have access to this recording so that you can come back to it on your own time whenever you find it most helpful for you. Okay, great. So how did you guys do with this one? Very challenging. It's quite challenging. So don't feel bad, don't feel frustrated if this was hard. It definitely was, even for me. Okay? But again, practice your three-dimensional forms and delve deeper into perspective. If you're a Patreon member in the $15 tier, you have access to all of my classes on form and perspective and how to start applying that to still life. But if you're not a Patreon member and you find this hard, I also have some free videos on perspective on my channel. And you can just buy yourself books on perspective or look for whatever free resources. If you don't have the money to invest in courses, look for free resources where they teach you perspective, okay? Because that is a drawing fundamental. And I promise you that it's going to open so many doors for you. And once you decipher form and perspective, you're going to be able to draw pretty much whatever you want. Of course, you need to develop your observational skills, your visual measuring skills. But if you don't understand perspective and 3D form, it's always going to continue holding you back. And the way that I try to teach drawing is, again, the way that I wanted to learn drawing, with the objective of being able to draw pretty much anything that you have in front of you. And to do that, in order to get there, you need to understand perspective. There is no way around that. Okay. Okay. The opening of the square one didn't come as big as the picture. Okay. But Ronnie, does the form look solid? Does the perspective look consistent? Like, that is the main thing. Because say your bottle ended up being a little bit taller or a little bit wider, than the bottle in the picture, that's fine, as long as it looks like a solid structure and as long as perspective makes sense. That is what's most important, right? Let's see. All right. And for me, for example, something that I also struggled with, that I see others struggle with as well, is making it look like the cylinder in this case is attached to the middle or center portion of this plane of the rectangular prism. Like, that is another challenge, is inserting or attaching this cylinder to the center of this plane. Because sometimes when we're just starting out, we attach it off center. That is hard too. Okay, so let me switch to the next one. We have two more and we're done. So let's see. This next one is coffee and cookies, or milk and cookies. I'm just gonna, well, whatever you want to see the liquid as is perfectly fine. I'm gonna choose to see it as coffee because I never drink just plain milk like that. And plus, it doesn't really matter for this kind of exercise. But so another kind of set of man-made objects, plus we have the little cookies, crackers, whatever they are. So observe this set of objects group of objects and just try to understand them as being three-dimensional. What three-dimensional form can you connect these objects into, or as, or what's, I didn't say that correctly. What can you simplify each of these objects as when it comes to simple forms? Spheres, cylinders, triangular prisms, rectangular prisms, stuff like that. Okay. So when I see the coffee mug itself, the little cup, I would say that it would be helpful for me to simplify that as a cylinder that is tapered at the bottom. We have the handle, which is the handle is, imagine a long, flexible cylinder, okay? And then bend it and attach it to the base structure, which is that central form, right? Bend the cylinder and attach it onto that central structure. That is essentially what the handle is. And then the plate is, well, plates are pretty flat, but they still have a thickness to them. So I am just going to draw the plate as an oval. Remember what I mentioned before, where the ovals have to look consistent when you are drawing anything, like anything that is cylindrical or whenever you're drawing a still life, because this is like a little still life arrangement, okay? Whenever you're drawing a still life, the perspective of all the objects in that still life have to be consistent. Otherwise, it's not going to look believable. So with this still life, we have the oval at the top, which is the opening of the coffee cup. This is a cylinder, right? It's tapered at the bottom. So there's that. It's curved at the bottom, but just visualize it as a cylinder. Remember that this curve has to make sense with this curve, okay? But then we also have the saucer, the plate, whatever you want to call it, and that is also an oval that has to make sense with these two ovals, okay? So the easiest way for me to explain this is take into account this curve, and this curve. They have to fit into each other, because the moment that you start doing like the plate like this, and then you start doing like a subtler curve for the coffee cup, kind of like this, you know, perspective does not make sense, because you're telling me that we're seeing the plate from more of a top-down view, more of a flat lay, and then we're seeing the coffee mug from a side view. That is not consistent, right? So pay attention to the ovals, especially in the top and bottom of the cylinder and the cup and the plate. They have to fit into each other, because if they don't, you're going to mess up the perspective. I hope that that makes sense. Okay, let's do this. How many minutes do you think you need for this set of objects? Let me know in the chats, and I'll make that happen. Oh, and also the little crackers, cookies, whatever they are, imagine them as flat rectangular prisms. Because if you just draw them as rectangles, they're going to look like flat rectangles, like they're paper thin, right? If you want to communicate a sense of thickness to the cookies, simply make sure that you're adding you're developing a sense of planes, of different planes. Remember that the difference between a shape and a form is that shapes are flat and two-dimensional, and forms they have volume, mass, they are three-dimensional. And in order to make something look like it has form, you need to communicate the changes in planes, okay? Because forms are made up of different planes, different sides. Flat objects, like a piece of paper, it does have a thickness to it. We can't really grasp the thickness very, I mean, so it's a very flat object. So flat objects do exist, but the majority of objects around us have thickness to them. Okay. And when we see that thickness, we communicate it via the planes. And you can see thickness in those cookies. You see a front plane, you see a top plane, and you see a bit of a side plane. Try to capture that in your drawing, and it'll all of a sudden look a little bit more realistic. 8 to 10. Awesome. Is everyone okay with, say, 9 minutes? Reset. Do you need to sharpen your pencil? If so, go ahead and sharpen it. All right, so I'm gonna set the timer for 9 minutes. And yeah, let's give this one a go. So here we go, you guys. 3, 2, 1, go. Timer is running. Gonna start with, what can I start with here? Maybe I even start with the plate itself. Whether you start with the coffee cup or the plate is up to you, but just remember that those ovals have to make sense with each other, okay, at the end. But I always start with the straight lines that I bring together. And then within this, how wide is that mug, cup, whatever it is? I need to remember to lift up my forearm. Erasing this line. Okay. Switching to my overhand grip. Oh, there are 3 cookies. I thought there were only 2, but there are 3. Just noticing that right now. Front plane and side plane. Gonna make the liquid darker so that it looks more like coffee instead of milk. I have no idea how much time we have left. Let's see. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. And another thing that you can do to advance your speed to become faster is to try drawing the exact same thing but giving yourself less and less time, fewer and fewer minutes. So maybe you start with 8 minutes, but then you go down to eight, and then you go down to five, and so on, and you become faster that way as well. You don't have to draw a different thing every single time. But I hope that by this point, you know, you kind of understand that you can advance your drawing with anything that you have around you in your day to day life, and that advancing your drawing skills doesn't necessarily have to mean looking for the most intricate, inspiring, awe inducing subject matter. Sometimes developing your skills comes down to drawing simple things that you have around you, whether through photos or direct observation. And also, I also hope that I am able to plant a little seed in you with this type of drawing practice, that you don't need to spend 2 hours every day trying to advance your drawing to advance your skills. Okay, you can spend half an hour, work on 2 sketches a day, and over time, if you do that 4 times a week, you're going to start developing your skills. Okay, so that was it for that one. We have one last drawing left. This one is a compound object for sure. And with compound object, I simply mean it's an object that is made up of multiple forms. Okay. For me, I would say it's the most complex object that we have from all the ones that we have drawn. And let me show you what it is. Ta-da! It's a little toy train. So let me check on the chat and see if I have any questions. Oh no, it's not this one. It's this one. Does what you start the drawing matter? Ronnie, do you mean does what for example, from what I understand from your question, let me know if I understand correctly. Do you mean whether I start with a plate or whether I start with a cup, or whether I start with what is that what you mean? Like, does that matter? Like what you start with? Is that your question? Does what you start the drawing matter? Because if that's your question, I would say as long as you're starting with the largest objects, you're going to be fine. Because the thing is that if you start with the smaller elements, that is not going to be super helpful because what helps you achieve better perspective and proportions is starting with the larger things first and then making your way toward the smaller things. And one thing that I would say is it also it's helpful as well alongside that to think of how things are overlapping or on the other things. Because, for example, in this one, it was easier for me to start with the plate because the coffee mug is on the plate. But I could have started with the coffee mug and then just drew the oval for the plate once that was in. But sometimes it's just helpful to start with the thing behind or underneath and then draw the thing in front. So it all depends on what you're looking at and what you're trying to draw. But one thing I can say for sure is always start with the largest things in that still life arrangement or whatever you're drawing. Even if you're drawing, say, a face, you're going to start with the shape of the face. You're not going to start with the eyes or the nose or the mouth. You want to get the shape of the head right. And then the facial features go inside of the head, you know? So that kind of thing. But then it's a case by case scenario where you want to observe the reference and consider like what would be best to start with in this specific situation, right? Okay, last one, you guys. So sharpening my pencil one last time. And for this one, as I said, this is a compound object made up of multiple three-dimensional forms that are brought together. So for this one, I see a cylinder, which is the front part of the train. I see kind of a rectangular prism in the back. And then at the top, it has like a what can I call that? It's like a part of the cylinder that has been sliced. Because that's the thing. Aside from knowing how to draw simple forms like cylinders, rectangular prisms, spheres, triangular prisms, and so on, you also need to learn how to slice them and how to bend them. And this is something that you develop the skill for, like not visually, in your mind's eye, you're able to manipulate the simple forms and cut into them, right? It's not just that you're not always going to just use a cylinder. Sometimes it's going to be half a cylinder, like a bowl, right? A kitchen bowl. Let's say you're drawing like a still life arrangement that has a bowl with fruit in it. Maybe the bowl is going to be half of a cylinder, right? It's not going to be the full cylinder, or sorry, half a sphere. I'm sorry. My brain is getting a little bit tired. The bowl is going to be half a sphere, right? So you cut off the top of the sphere, hollow it, and that is essentially what the bowl is, okay? So it's not always going to be just the three-dimensional form on its own, complete as you first practice them. Sometimes they're going to be just part of that 3D form. And that is the case of the little roof portion, okay, of the little train over here at the back and top of this thing. That is a cylinder that has been sliced. You see that curve, and you see the front plane, and you see what is the top planes, okay? It's nothing but a cylinder. It's a part of a cylinder that has been sliced. Now, this other little thing, I'm really sorry, but I don't know what these different parts of trains are called, but the part where the smoke comes out, the little cone right here above the cylinder, it's a cone. It's simply a cone that has been attached into a cylinder. Okay? The wheels you can see as flat cylinders as well, just so that they don't look super flat, or I should say short cylinders, right? Imagine wheels of a car, a normal car, okay? It's just a cylinder, a short cylinder. that is placed kind of standing up, you know? But it's nothing but it's just a cylinder. That's all it is. These little wheels are not exactly the same as car tires. They are a little bit flatter and they also have like a disc, but still I am visualizing those as cylinders. Just it's just that the cylinder is very like flattened, like shorter, a lot shorter, but they have a thickness to them. And that thickness is important to communicate if you don't want the tires or the wheels to look flat. Everything else, all of the the other smaller components that I'm not mentioning right now, from what I can see, they're just little teeny tiny cylinders that are attached to the main structures. So what would I personally start with here? I would personally start with the largest cylinder, because because everything else can be built around that. Okay, I can then build the rectangular prism at the back with the partial cylinder at the top, and the little cone for the little thing where the smoke comes out, and then at the end I will add the tires. Okay, so how many minutes do you think you'll need for this one? Let me know in the chats and I'll make that happen. My goodness, my hands are covered in graphite by this point. Do you think 10 to 12? Okay. How about we give this 10 minutes, Michelle? Does that sound okay with everyone? 10 again? Okay, perfect. So let's do 10 minutes. Let me set my timer for 10 minutes. Reset. Alrighty. Hope everyone is ready. And 1, 2, go. Timer is running. I'm gonna make this one a little bit larger. I'm going to start with the central cylinder, which is at a tilt. And that's the thing as well, is that sometimes I don't start with the oval. Sometimes I start by just laying down some lines if I think it's going to help me get that tilt right. And then I build the ovals. Let's see how much I can do with this one. This is a challenging object. Okay, that's it for my cylinder. Then should make this a little bit longer. Keep it moving. What's this angle here? I think this may be a little bit too long. I'm gonna bring this entire front portion in. The cylinder is way too long. Let's see if I have time to fix this. I have no idea how much time we have left, but I'm just going to keep going. All right. So that is time. How are you guys doing? This one was quite challenging, I must say. So if you would like a couple of extra minutes, I can set the timer for 2 more minutes and we can continue. How are you guys feeling with this one? Just let me know. This is a very, very challenging compound object. Notice how the wheels get smaller as they recede away. That is something that I had to fix as I was moving along because of the foreshortening. They get smaller and smaller. Let me know in the chats how you did, if you want a couple of extra minutes. Alrighty. Okay, Michelle, that's a good point. Sometimes it is more helpful to just start over or build up your skills and then tackle this one. I mean, whatever you feel will be best for you. But if there's anyone out there who also wants a couple of extra minutes, let me go ahead and set this one for a couple of more minutes. Let's do 2, reset, and let's give this one a go. Just 2 more minutes. And also, in the meantime, if any of you have any last questions that you would like to ask me, it can be on anything. It doesn't even have to be on Quick Sketch and what we're looking at today. If you have any questions on art supplies, productivity, specific like technical questions when it comes to drawing or watercolor painting, anything like that that you would like my input on, I'm always happy to help. So feel free to let me know. Okay. I don't want to leave before answering any last questions that you might have. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer for 2 more minutes. 1, 2, and go. Timer has started. Let me see what I can do. My cylinder definitely, or maybe it's my wheels that end up being too small, but there's definitely a lot more kind of back portion to my drawing, to my train, than what is there in the photo. And let me know if you have any questions. Leave them in the chat. Anything at all. I'm an open book. Alrighty. I was able to do a little bit more. I think it looks a little bit better. Definitely had some proportion issues there, but it's all good. It was great practice nonetheless. All right. So let's see. Gonna tackle any last minute questions that you might have, and we'll be all done for today. Let's see. Hello again, people. Okay, let me take this away. How are you guys doing? Let's see. Pop up the chat here. Much harder. Blot my shiny face. Michelle, yes, this one was definitely very challenging. I will need to break this down as yes, that's a very smart thing to do, Carol, for sure. Break this down into simple forms. How do we draw a wheel separately so I can see its form? So let's see. So these are very thin, very like smushed or narrow cylinders, short cylinders, however you want to see it, right? So when it comes to like imagine a wheel, it would be very short, right? It's a very short cylinder that you're seeing here. And also what I notice what I notice about these wheels is that it's like a disc in some parts where it's very thin, almost like flat, and then there are other sections that are thicker, so that makes these wheels harder as well. But imagine a wheel as just being a cylinder, and depending on the thickness of the wheel, the cylinder is going to be taller or is going to be shorter, right? So what I would recommend is just practicing just short cylinders from different perspectives, Carol. Right? And in this perspective, we see very little of that thickness because of the perspective and our vantage point in relation to the object. But it's there, and sometimes just by adding a little bit of a sense of thickness, by adding a line alongside the curve, you all of a sudden create a sense of thickness just by describing the side planes. But I think, Carol, that the best thing that you can do is just practice drawing cylinders in different perspectives. Does that make sense? Wheels are going to be more like in this position where they're standing up like that. So, more of a vertical position where they're connected to whatever that part of a car is called. It's like an axis. They're standing up kind of like that on their side. Maybe in the other direction. They have a thickness to them. At least real tires do, right? They have a flat thickness to them on the top and bottom, right? So imagine the discs. Okay, let's see if I have any more questions. Much harder? Yes, Maria, for sure. This one was very challenging. Yes, I mean, it was challenging for me, and I have been doing this for years. So, no, don't feel bad or like you're lacking any skill. It's just like you need to like do simpler ones first so that you can build your confidence and then practice your forms for sure. That's going to be super helpful. And then you can try this again, and I'm sure it's going to go better. Michelle, I'm so happy it was helpful. And Carol, you're welcome. Ronnie, the front cylinder was bigger than in the picture, and the wheels don't look the same size. What I notice in the picture is that because of the foreshortening, so this object is longer than it is tall. And as a viewer of this toy, we are closer to the front of the train and the back of the train, right? So because of that length or backward projection and the item's length going back, the parts of the train that are nearest us are going to appear a little bit larger than the parts receding away. And you can see this in the photo in the wheels. Let me pop this up again. Here it is. So even when you see this photo, the wheels there, if you observe carefully, the front wheel looks a little bit larger than the wheel in the middle, and the wheel in the middle looks a little bit larger than the farthest away wheel. And sometimes what helps me is kind of drawing, for example, drawing a line, or not a line, a couple of lines like this in the kind of angle that you need. This is larger than this, so I'm going to be able to get the foreshortening situation where things get smaller as they recede away from us more effectively in my sketch when I visualize two lines that are receding toward a vanishing point, in this case to the right. And then once you have those two lines, it's easier to draw the wheels in the sizes that you desire. And the wheels are going to end up being at least communicating that foreshortening more clearly because you're visualizing that shape. You know what I mean? Because these guidelines that you've created are already showing that receding, getting smaller, and so if you visualize these lines or even draw them, like sketch them, and then draw the wheels, it can be very helpful. Because I definitely struggled with this in the beginning. If you just go by what your brain is telling you to do, many times things are just not going to end up looking believable. This is why we need to observe references, especially in the beginning when we're learning how to simplify into basic shapes and we're learning perspective and we're trying to understand the proportions of, if you're if you really want to get great at drawing a specific animal, you need to spend time studying that specific animal to understand its proportions and all this, and practice drawing it and painting it with actual reference photos that you're observing. Because otherwise, your brain is going to start making up information, right? And not only this, but okay, there it is. Not only this, but also naturally, subconsciously, without you even realizing, we tend to straighten things out and create much more symmetry than what is actually present in the scene or in the object, because our brains understand straight horizontal lines and straight vertical lines and symmetry and patterns a lot more easily than irregular lines and tilts and angles and all that kind of stuff. And so if you stop looking at the reference photo, all of a sudden you might end up with very like stiff, flat um, human poses, if it's a figure that you're drawing, or even objects, because your brain starts straightening things out naturally, just without. So as you're building up your drawing skills, you need to kind of override what your brain is telling you to do and kind of cancel that and observe your references very, very closely, and make sure that you're bringing in this understanding. For example, when I'm sketching something that is organic, like what we were sketching in the beginning, I try to bring in even sometimes more imperfection and more asymmetry than what I see in that plant or in that rock or in that cloud or whatever, because I know that my brain is going to lean more toward straightening things out and making everything super perfect and symmetrical. But in reality, the cloud is not symmetrical, it's irregular, it's organic, it's an abstract shape. So I need to understand that my brain is going to pull me toward one direction, but really I need to continue coming back to the reference, coming back to what things look like in real life. And over time, I mean, even to the day, after many, many years of sketching, if I'm not careful, I still continue making things super stiff and more perfect than they actually are. But if I stay mindful throughout the process, and I know that this is what my brain is going to naturally do, then I'm able to override that more easily, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. So I seem to have no more questions. This was so fun, you guys. Thank you so much for popping in, for sketching with me. I really hope that this was super helpful. And not only like right now during the class, but I hope that I was able to like plant some seeds in your brains in many, many things, in terms of how to approach your drawing process, and also like how to move forward in your practice, even when you're short on time. Maybe you're super busy, maybe you struggle with perfectionism. I hope that these exercises helped like open up your mind and understand that art doesn't have to be perfect in order for you to make serious progress. Okay. And yeah, this was super fun. I'm looking forward to next month's live class. I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but I always do a live class every single month. And what's the word? My brain is already super tired. I do one month of watercolor, 1 month of drawing, 1 month of watercolor, 1 month of drawing. So I alternate between the two. So next month is going to be a watercolor kind of foundational lesson if you are interested. And if you're a YouTube viewer, I always make sure to subscribe, because if you don't subscribe, then it's very likely that maybe my videos won't even pop up on your feed anymore, because the algorithm is super weird like that. But aside from that, I always make sure to share news on my Instagram, my Facebook, and also right here in the YouTube community tab. I always kind of send out a reminder about tomorrow's live stream the day before in the community tab. And over on Patreon, you are the first to know. I always let you guys know from the start of the week so that you're prepared and you have many more kind of reminders. So that is it for today's lesson. Thank you so much for joining me. This was super fun. Thank you so much, Patreon members. You make this all possible. And I look forward to sharing another tutorial, another live stream, another theoretical lesson over on Patreon, and all the things that I create for you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend and talk to you guys very, very soon.